My wife divorced me saying I held her back from career opportunities and she could have been an executive by now. She got promoted after our split, then I became CEO of the company that rejected her application and she realized I'd been supporting her all along. I am 38 years old and I want to share what happened in my marriage and career over the past 3 years. I was married to Hannah for 10 years before she filed for divorce. We met when we were both 26 at a professional development conference. She worked in marketing for a regional retail chain and I was in operations management for a logistics company. We hit it off immediately and started dating seriously within months. Hannah was ambitious from the start. She talked constantly about her career goals and how she wanted to be a VP or C-suite executive by 35. She had a vision board in our apartment with pictures of corner offices and women in power suits. She read every business book that came out and was always talking about leadership strategies and corporate advancement. I found her drive attractive. I was ambitious too, but more quietly so. I focused on doing good work and building relationships rather than talking about where I wanted to be. We got married after dating for 2 years. Hannah kept her last name because she said she had already built professional recognition with it. I understood and supported that decision. Early in our marriage, we both worked long hours building our careers. I would come home at 7 or 8 and she would often still be at work. When she was home, she was networking online or attending professional events. About 3 years into our marriage, I got promoted to senior operations manager. It came with a significant raise and more responsibility. Hannah congratulated me but seemed distracted. Her own career had stalled a bit. She had been passed over for a promotion to senior marketing manager twice. She said her company didn't recognize talent and was full of office politics. I encouraged her to keep working hard and her time would come. Around this same time, Hannah started asking me to attend more of her work events with her. Company parties, networking mixers, industry conferences. She said it was important for her colleagues to see her as stable and established. Having a successful spouse at these events would help her image. I went to everything she asked me to attend even though I found most of these events exhausting. I would stand there making small talk with her coworkers while she worked the room. Hannah also wanted me to host dinner parties for her work contacts. She would invite her boss and colleagues to our house and I would cook elaborate meals. She said entertaining was part of career advancement and we needed to show we were sophisticated and successful. I spent entire weekends meal planning and cooking while Hannah focused on the social dynamics of who sat where and what topics we should discuss. 5 years into our marriage, I was offered a director-level position at my company. It was a big jump and would mean even longer hours and frequent travel. Hannah was enthusiastic and said I should definitely take it. She said we needed at least one of us moving up the ladder. I took the position and my career accelerated. Within 2 years I was VP of operations overseeing multiple facilities. During this time, Hannah finally got promoted to senior marketing manager at her company. She was excited for about a month and then started complaining that it should have happened years earlier. She said she was behind where she should be in her career trajectory. She was 33 and had wanted to be director level by then. She blamed her company's culture and said they didn't value innovative thinking. I suggested she look for positions at other companies if she was unhappy. She said she couldn't afford to start over somewhere new because it would set her back even further. She needed to stay and fight for the next promotion. I supported her decision and continued attending her work events and hosting dinners for her professional contacts. I also traveled less for my own job to be more available for her networking needs. Hannah became increasingly bitter about her career. She would compare herself to people she went to business school with who were now VPs or executives. She said she was just as smart and capable as they were but hadn't had the same opportunities. I reminded her that she was still young and had time to advance. She said I didn't understand the pressure she was under to succeed. Things got worse after she was passed over for promotion to director of marketing. Her company gave the position to someone younger who had been there half as long as Hannah. She was devastated and furious. She said the company was ageist and sexist and didn't respect her experience. She spent weeks complaining about how unfair it was. I listened and tried to be supportive while also managing my own demanding job. Around our 8th anniversary, Hannah started saying that I was holding her back. She said I was too needy and required too much emotional support. She said successful women needed partners who could handle themselves without constant attention. I was confused because I didn't think I needed constant attention. I worked long hours myself and was fairly independent. But she insisted that I was clingy and it was affecting her career focus. She also started criticizing how I handled my own career. She said I had gotten lucky with my promotions but didn't have the strategic thinking required for C-suite positions. She said I was too nice and people-focused instead of being ruthless like real executives. I tried not to take it personally but her comments hurt. I had worked hard for my success and being told it was just luck felt dismissive. Last year, things came to a head. Hannah told me she wanted a divorce. She said she had realized that our marriage was preventing her from reaching her full potential. She said watching me advance easily while she struggled made her resentful. She said she needed to be single to focus completely on her career without having to consider a spouse's needs or attend to relationship maintenance. I was shocked and tried to convince her to try counseling. She said counseling was for people who wanted to save their marriage and she didn't. She had already consulted with a divorce attorney and knew what she wanted. She said this wasn't about me being a bad husband, it was about her needing to prioritize her career. She moved out within 2 weeks. The divorce was quick because we didn't have kids and had kept our finances relatively separate. Hannah wanted the divorce finalized as fast as possible so she could start her new chapter. Within 3 months we were legally divorced. I moved into a smaller apartment and tried to process what had happened. My friends and family were sympathetic but also confused. They said I had been a supportive husband who had sacrificed a lot of my own advancement to help Hannah with her career needs. Update 1. 4 months after our divorce was finalized, I heard through mutual friends that Hannah had been promoted to marketing director at her company. She posted about it extensively on LinkedIn, talking about how this was just the beginning of her executive journey. She made several posts about how important it was to eliminate distractions and focus single-mindedly on career goals. The implication was clear that I had been one of those distractions. I felt angry reading her posts. She was essentially crediting her promotion to divorcing me. She was telling her professional network that leaving her marriage had unlocked her potential. It made me look like I had been some anchor dragging her down for 10 years. Several people who knew us both sent me screenshots of her posts with sympathetic messages. Around this same time, I was contacted by an executive recruiter. He said he had been following my career and wanted to discuss an opportunity. I agreed to meet with him mostly out of curiosity. The opportunity was a CEO position at a mid-sized tech company called Horizon Dynamics. They had been struggling with operational efficiency and needed someone with my background to turn things around. I was skeptical at first. I had never seen myself as CEO material. I was good at operations and managing people, but running an entire company seemed like a huge leap. The recruiter said that was exactly why I was perfect for it. The company didn't need someone who was going to focus on vision and strategy, they needed someone who could fix their fundamental operational problems. They needed a boots-on-the-ground leader who understood how businesses actually ran. I went through multiple rounds of interviews with the board of directors. They were impressed with my track record of improving efficiency and reducing costs while maintaining employee satisfaction. They liked that I had come up through operations rather than through finance or sales. They thought that perspective was exactly what the company needed. After 2 months of interviews and negotiations, they offered me the position. I accepted and gave notice at my current company. My colleagues were happy for me but also surprised. I had been seen as a steady operations guy, not a flashy CEO type. But the offer was too good to pass up. The salary was triple what I had been making and the equity package was substantial. I would be leading a company of 400 employees with revenues of $80 million annually. When I posted about my new position on LinkedIn, Hannah saw it. She sent me a congratulatory message that felt forced. She said she was happy I had found a good opportunity and wished me luck. I thanked her briefly and didn't engage further. Several of her former colleagues who knew me reached out to say they thought I would be great in the role. Some of them made pointed comments about how success comes to those who focus on work instead of office politics. Starting as CEO was overwhelming at first. The company had significant problems with communication between departments, inefficient processes, and low employee morale. I spent my first 3 months just listening and learning. I met with every department head and many individual employees. I reviewed processes and identified bottlenecks. I started implementing changes slowly and deliberately. One of my first major initiatives was improving the marketing department. They were disorganized and constantly missing deadlines. Their campaigns were generic and not driving results. The marketing director was ineffective and had let the department deteriorate. I ended up having to let him go and began searching for a replacement. This was one of the hardest parts of being CEO, but it was necessary. I worked with our HR director to post the position and review applications. We were looking for someone who understood tech marketing and could build a cohesive team. We got over 200 applications for the director of marketing position. One of those applications was from Hannah. When I saw her resume in the stack, I was stunned. I asked HR to send me her full application package. Reading through her materials, I was struck by how unimpressive they were. Her resume listed her current position as director of marketing, but all of her accomplishments were vague. Things like collaborated with teams to deliver campaigns or contributed to brand strategy development. There were no concrete metrics or results. Her cover letter talked a lot about her vision for integrated marketing approaches and her passion for innovative strategies. But it was full of buzzwords and corporate jargon without substance. She clearly didn't understand what Horizon Dynamics actually did or what our marketing challenges were. It read like a template she had used for multiple applications with our company name inserted. I compared her application to the other strong candidates. Several of them had specific examples of campaigns they had led with measurable results. They had increased revenue by specific percentages or grown market share in concrete ways. They had managed teams through major transitions or product launches. Hannah's experience seemed thin and superficial by comparison. I showed her application to our HR director without mentioning that she was my ex-wife. The HR director said it was a mediocre application that wouldn't make it to the interview round. The candidate seemed to have stagnated at each role and had no standout achievements. She also noted that the cover letter felt generic and showed no real knowledge of our company. I agreed and Hannah's application was rejected. Looking at her resume objectively, something clicked for me. Hannah had always blamed external factors for her lack of advancement. Her company didn't recognize talent. Office politics held her back. I had distracted her from networking. But the truth was right there in her own application materials. She was an average performer who had reached her ceiling. She had no major accomplishments to point to from 10 years of marketing work. She had managed to get promoted to director level, but it had taken her 8 years to move from entry-level marketing coordinator to that position. She had never led a successful major campaign or dramatically improved any metrics. She had just shown up and done adequate work for a decade. I thought about all the times I had supported her career. The networking events I attended. The dinners I hosted. The travel I declined so I could be available for her needs. The emotional support I provided every time she was passed over for promotion. I had bent my own career around her ambitions. And she had been mediocre the entire time while blaming everyone else for her limitations. Meanwhile, I had quietly excelled. I had been promoted regularly because I delivered results. I had improved efficiency at every company I worked for. I had built strong teams and earned respect from colleagues and superiors. I hadn't talked constantly about my ambitions or created vision boards. I had just done excellent work consistently. And now I was CEO while Hannah was stuck at director level at a regional company. Update 2. 6 months into my role as CEO, I had turned the company around significantly. We had streamlined operations, improved employee satisfaction scores by 40%, and increased revenue by 15%. The board was thrilled with the progress. I had also built a strong executive team, including an excellent new marketing director we had hired from outside. Hannah found out about my success through LinkedIn and mutual connections. She started liking and commenting on all of my professional posts. She would write things about how she always knew I had executive potential or how great it was to see my success. It felt hollow and opportunistic. She was trying to associate herself with my achievements now that I was successful in a visible way. She also started reaching out more directly. She sent me a message asking if we could have coffee to catch up. She said she had been doing a lot of reflection about our marriage and wanted to talk. I ignored the message. A week later she sent another one saying she hoped we could be friends and support each other's careers. I didn't respond to that one either. Then she did something that surprised me. She applied for a senior marketing manager position at Horizon Dynamics. It was 2 levels below director and would have been a step down from her current role. When HR sent me her application, I realized what she was doing. She was willing to take a demotion just to work at my company. Either she thought she could quickly advance once she was inside, or she wanted to be close to me again. Her application for the senior manager role was better than her director application had been. She had clearly gotten help writing it. The accomplishments were still vague, but they were framed more compellingly. Her cover letter specifically addressed why she was interested in a more junior role, saying she wanted to be part of a dynamic growing company even if it meant taking a step back. HR asked me if I wanted to interview her since I would be her ultimate boss several levels up. I said no and that they should handle the hiring process without my input since I had a personal connection to the candidate. I didn't mention we had been married. I just said we had known each other socially and I wanted to avoid any appearance of bias. HR interviewed Hannah along with other candidates. They ultimately didn't select her. The feedback was that she interviewed poorly. She spent most of the interview talking about herself and her career goals rather than understanding the company's needs. She name-dropped me several times saying she knew the CEO personally and understood the company vision. The interviewers found it off-putting and questioned whether she actually had any connection to me or was just trying to leverage my name. When Hannah was rejected, she emailed me directly. She said she couldn't believe I had blocked her from getting a job at my company. She said it was petty and vindictive. She accused me of sabotaging her career the way she had accused me of holding her back during our marriage. I responded briefly saying I had not been involved in the hiring decision and that HR made all selections based on qualifications. She didn't believe me. She sent a long angry email about how I was threatened by her success and couldn't handle the idea of her working at my company. She said I was intimidated by strong, accomplished women and that's why our marriage had failed. She said she was going to continue advancing her career and I couldn't stop her. I didn't respond to that email. I talked to my therapist about the situation. I had started therapy after the divorce to process everything. My therapist pointed out that Hannah was still blaming external factors for her limitations. She couldn't accept that she simply wasn't qualified for positions at my company. She had to make it about me sabotaging her rather than her own skills not being competitive. My therapist also helped me see that I had enabled Hannah's self-delusion during our marriage. Every time she was passed over for promotion, I had comforted her and agreed that her company was unfair or political. I had never suggested that maybe she needed to improve her skills or deliver better results. I had supported her narrative that she was a victim of circumstances rather than helping her see areas for growth. Meanwhile, my own career continued to flourish. We landed several major new clients and I was invited to speak at industry conferences. I was profiled in business publications as an example of operational excellence in leadership. My equity in the company was increasing in value as we grew. I was building real wealth and influence in my industry. Hannah's career stayed stagnant. According to mutual friends, she was still director of marketing at the same regional company. She had applied for VP positions at other companies but wasn't getting interviews. Her LinkedIn showed her attending various professional development workshops and getting certifications. She was still trying to check boxes rather than delivering actual results. She posted a lot on social media about the challenges women face advancing in corporate America. She shared articles about glass ceilings and bias against women in leadership. While those are real issues, the way she framed it made it clear she saw herself as a victim of these systemic problems. She couldn't acknowledge that some women advanced quickly because they were exceptionally talented and hardworking, not just lucky. One of our mutual friends told me that Hannah had said she regretted divorcing me. She had apparently told this friend that she didn't realize how much I had been helping her career through my support and connections. She thought leaving me would free her to soar, but instead she had lost her support system and stayed grounded. The friend thought I would want to know this. I didn't want to know it. Hannah's regret wasn't about missing me as a person or valuing what we had together. It was about missing what I could do for her professionally now that I was CEO. She saw me as a resource she had foolishly discarded. If I had stayed at the VP level, she wouldn't regret leaving. Her regret was purely transactional. Update 3. A year and a half into my role as CEO, Horizon Dynamics was acquired by a much larger tech company for $200 million. My equity stake meant I walked away with $8 million after taxes. I was offered the president role at the acquiring company overseeing multiple divisions. It was another major step up in my career. I was now a C-suite executive at a company with thousands of employees and billions in revenue. Hannah saw the acquisition announcement. She sent me a congratulatory message that was clearly bitter underneath the polite words. She said something about how some people have all the luck and fall upward into success. I didn't respond. I was too busy with the transition and integration work to worry about my ex-wife's jealousy. The acquiring company had me do interviews with business press about the acquisition and my career trajectory. In one interview, I was asked about work-life balance and whether I had sacrificed relationships for career success. I was honest and said I had been divorced and that my ex-wife had felt I held her back from her career goals. But I said I had learned that you can't sacrifice yourself trying to boost someone else's career if they're not willing to do the work themselves. That interview was picked up widely in business circles. Hannah's friend sent her the article. She was furious that I had mentioned our divorce publicly. She sent me an angry message saying I had no right to talk about our marriage in the press. She said I was trying to make her look bad to justify my own selfishness. She said she was going to write her own account of what really happened in our marriage. She never did write that account. I think she realized it would make her look worse than staying quiet. If she publicly claimed I held her back while I was now a C-suite executive and she was still a director, people would question her version of events. It would be obvious that she had blamed me for her own mediocrity. Instead, Hannah went a different direction. She started positioning herself as a career coach for women. She created a consulting business on the side helping women navigate corporate advancement. Her LinkedIn became full of posts giving career advice and talking about overcoming obstacles. It was ironic since she hadn't actually overcome the obstacles she claimed expertise in. I heard from someone who had hired her as a coach that the advice was generic and unhelpful. Hannah told people to network more and advocate for themselves, but didn't give practical strategies for delivering results or building real value. She was coaching people to do what she had done, which was talk a lot about career ambitions without backing it up with accomplishments. My own career continued evolving. I served as president for 2 years before deciding to step back and join some boards instead. I had made enough money and wanted more flexibility in my life. I joined the boards of 3 companies and did some angel investing. I started dating seriously for the first time since the divorce and met someone wonderful who had her own successful career and didn't need me to validate her ambitions. Hannah eventually remarried. She married a man who worked in HR and was apparently very supportive of her career coaching business. According to mutual friends, she talked constantly about how her new husband understood her ambitions in a way I never had. She said he encouraged her to dream big while I had been threatened by her success. It was a revision of history, but I didn't care enough to correct it. I saw her once at a professional conference about 3 years after our divorce. She was there representing her career coaching business. I was there as a board member of one of the companies sponsoring the event. We made brief eye contact across a crowded room. She looked away quickly. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, nothing. She was just someone I used to know who had blamed me for her own limitations. Later at that same conference, someone introduced themselves to me and mentioned they knew Hannah. They said she had told them we used to be married. They asked if it was awkward seeing her here. I said not particularly. They said Hannah had mentioned that she and I had very different definitions of success and that's why the marriage didn't work. I just nodded politely and changed the subject. What I didn't say was that Hannah was right about us having different definitions of success. For her, success was titles and status and being seen as important. For me, success was actually doing important work and delivering results. She had spent 10 years chasing the appearance of success while I had spent those same years building real value and competence. She had divorced me thinking I was holding her back from greatness. She thought that freedom from marriage would unleash her potential. Instead, she discovered that she had already reached her potential and it was lower than she wanted to admit. She was a solid mid-level marketing professional who could maintain a director role at a small company. There was nothing wrong with that except that it didn't match her inflated sense of her own abilities. Meanwhile, I had been quietly excellent for years while supporting her dreams. I had taken less travel and fewer opportunities to accommodate her networking needs. I had hosted countless dinners and attended boring events to boost her career. I had sacrificed advancement opportunities because she said she needed my support. And all along, I was the one with real executive potential while she was average. The satisfaction wasn't in her failure. She didn't really fail, she just plateaued at a respectable level. The satisfaction was in proving that her narrative about me was wrong. I hadn't held her back. If anything, my support had probably helped her reach director level when she might have stalled earlier without it. She had been coasting on my emotional and practical support while complaining I was dragging her down. Looking back now, I can see that Hannah needed someone to blame for not achieving her ambitious goals. I was a convenient target because I was there and I was succeeding where she was not. It was easier to say her husband held her back than to admit she wasn't as talented as she thought she was. Divorcing me didn't free her to soar, it just removed the excuse. I occasionally see her LinkedIn post still. She's now senior director of marketing at a slightly larger company than before. It took her 3 years to add the word senior to her title. She posts constantly about leadership and career advancement, positioning herself as an expert. Her career coaching business seems to have fizzled out. She still talks about breaking through to executive level soon, but she's been saying that for 15 years now. Meanwhile, I'm on the boards of 3 successful companies, I have more money than I need, and I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who doesn't see me as a career accessory. I mentor young professionals who remind me of my younger self, people who focus on doing good work rather than promoting themselves. I'm respected in my industry for actual accomplishments rather than self-promotion. The best revenge wasn't becoming CEO of a company that rejected her, though that was satisfying. The best revenge was proving through my own success that I had never been the problem. She had blamed me for holding her back when I was actually the only thing propping her up. Without my support and the excuses I enabled, she had to face the reality that she was average. That's a hard truth, but it's one she created by refusing to honestly assess her own performance and by blaming others for her limitations. I just happened to be the person who got to watch her realize it from a position of success she claimed I was too needy and unsupportive to ever achieve.